Ephesians 6 verse 12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So today's video, we're going to be talking about the mystery Babylon that's going to be revealed. We're going to go through a lot of details, including its origins, its backgrounds, and all its ties to all the sources, resources, and also its connections to other parts of religion. If you have not noticed about Babylon, it is connected to many parts of religion, but make no mistake, folks, it is tied with traditions, and also Christianity holds some parts of Babylonian traditions that we all need to be aware of. But it's not just some, there's a lot. So be advised, we're actually going to go through a lot of good things that we need to be aware of what we need to do. So anyways, let's get started. So we're going to look at the origins of Christmas first before we get started on Babylon. This is where it all starts right here. On December 25th, they celebrated the birth of Mithra, their son God. Both celebrations were raucous, drunken parties, also in December, in which the darkest day of the year falls. The pagan cultures lit bonfires and candles to keep the darkness at bay. And here's a question that some people ask. Where did Christmas come from, pagan? It is commonly believed that the church chose this date in an effort to adopt and observe the traditions of the pagan Saturnalia festival, first called the Feast of the Nativity. The custom spread Egypt by 432 and to England by the end of the 6th century. And that's not it. There's also 7 pagan festivals we still celebrate today that's actually inside of Christianity. Yes, even some Christians do this, and some churches don't do some others. But there are actually pagan holidays that's in this list right here that we still do, including Christmas, New Year's Day, Easter, Roman version of Halloween, May 1st, Labor Day, Epiphany, or Three Kings Day, and St. John's Eve. Now, we'll explain this how it connects to Babylonian tradition. And here's this. What does the name Nimrod mean? Nimrod is a boy's name of Hebrew origin. His name translates to "we will rebel," and can be traced back to the controversial king who appears in the Hebrew Bible. And also Nimrod's wife is also Semiramis. She's also the mother of Nimrod at the same time. And he's also got 3 sons, Eliezer, Magar, and Hunar. And also, was Tammuz born on December 25th? Tammuz was Nimrod reborn. Elias, his son, his wife, and mother was Rhea, which is Semiramis. Egyptian and Babylonian antiquities recognize his mother as Semiramis, and his birthday is celebrated on the 25th December. Semiramis was depicted as a virgin Madonna holding the, well, you know what it is. It's a Christ child, even though that's not the Messiah's name at all. But anyways, yes, this is how we all got the ideal, how they got the Trinity part. So what's the origin of Nimrod? Biblically speaking, Nimrod was the son of Cush and great-grandson of Noah. Many Christian historians believe he oversaw the construction of the Tower of Babel, referred to as the City of the Tower in the Bible. So here's this. So why did Nimrod build the Tower of Babel? Nimrod wanted to build cities and is credited with building the Tower of Babel, the center of a city that would reach to the heavens. The goal of their leaders was to make a name for themselves that would be remembered forever. So does the Tower of Babel still exist? Today, nothing remains but a watering hole. The tower has said to be almost 100 meters tall and was dedicated to Babylon's own deity, Marduk, but even he was powerless to save this once mighty city. Interesting. So let's take a look at who Marduk is. So Marduk is a chief god of Babylon. Marduk was the patron god of Babylon, the Babylonian king of the gods, who presided over justice, compassion, healing, regeneration, magic, and fairness, although he is also sometimes referred as a storm god and agricultural deity. That's interesting. What does that sound familiar? Sounds like other deities that we need to go look up at. So, let's go look at what Baal is. So he is a Canaanite Phoenician god of fertility and weather, specifically rainstorms. That's interesting. Sounds like the other name we just heard recently. Now, the name was also used as a title, however, meaning Lord. Interesting. That's right. Because if you do learn Hebrew, it does mean Baal, by the way. So anyways, let's continue. And was applied to a number of different deities throughout the ancient Near East. So let's take a look at Zeus for a moment. So it's in ancient Greek religion, chief deity of the pantheon, a sky and weather god. So weather god, it's interesting, was identical with the Roman god Jupiter. His name clearly comes from that of the sky god deus of the ancient Hindu Rigveda. Let's go take a look at Deus. So Deus, or Diospatar, is the Rigvedic sky deity. And then interesting, everything goes to sky. His consort is Prithvi, the earth goddess, and together they are archetypical parents in the Rigveda Deus, god of the sky. Interesting. Now that we actually know for a few couple gods, let's take a look at this bigger part of the mystery of Babylon, shall we? Including who was really born December 25th. So, it says here, when Nimrod, the founder of Babylon, died, Semiramis told the people that her husband's spirit had taken possession of the sun. She encouraged the people to pay homage to her husband by worshiping the sun. Thus began the evil practice of sun worship. Later on, when Semiramis gave birth to a son by the name of Tammuz, she hid her licentious form of living by lying to the people. She told them that she was miraculously overshadowed by the spirit of her dead husband, Nimrod, and it was in this way she was able to bring forth this so-called son of God. So, our translators knew about this part and took that from it to place it on this, because when you read the Hebrew version of the Bible, Yahushua, son of Yahuah Elohim, the Creator, who is the Lamb of Elohim, is actually called son of Elohim instead of son of God. So this is where we got this idea from. So let's continue. So Semiramis also declared that her son, Tammuz, was in actuality the return of her rebirth of her husband, Nimrod. Hence, through his teaching, the doctrine of reincarnation was born. And since Tammuz was born on December 25th, this day was highly honored and recognized by Nimrod's supporters. Note, therefore, that this date, December 25th, was observed in honor of the birth of Tammuz long before Christianity existed, and that it was not until many centuries later this pagan custom was Christianized as being the birthday of, well, again, this is the false name for this day, so anyways, which is true, it was Christianized. The similarity between some of the ancient pagan beliefs and the truth is notable. Those who existed after the flood knew the true prophecies of Elohim very well because the Creator had made his plans known unto all the descendants of Adam and Eve. Therefore, it was not difficult for Satan to counterfeit the truth with erroneous applications. The notable writer Alexander Hislop tells us, if there was one who was more deeply concerned in the tragic death of Nimrod than another, it was his wife Semiramis, who, from an originally humble position, had been raised to share with him the throne of Babylon. In life, her husband had been honored as a hero. In death, she will have him worshipped as a god, as the woman's promised seed, Zoroaster, who was destined to bruise the serpent's head and who, in doing so, was to have his own heel bruised, the two Babylonians. Of course, because of the defying of her husband, it was not long before Nimrod's followers began to also worship Semiramis, and her son Tammuz, Zoroaster, was worshipped as well. More and more, Semiramis was revered by the people and was viewed by many as a priestess/goddess. Later on, she also became known as the Queen of Heaven. Interesting, just like the same way how the Catholic Church uses Mary as Queen of Heaven. Thus began the awful practice of exalting human deities. These false beliefs have led up to the many different forms of idolatry that are still practiced by different people today. Yes, it was through the introduction of these satanic evils and the many sacrilegious practice of ancient Babylonian that witchcraft, priestcraft, spiritualism, and other forms of paganism were born. Says the well-known author Ellen G. White, the doctrine of man's consciousness in death, especially the belief that spirits of the dead return to minister to the living, has prepared the way for modern spiritualism, the great controversy. So here's a question. Is Christmas Day and Halloween related to sun worship? So the worship of Nimrod became widespread when the builders of the Tower of Babel were scattered throughout the earth. Along with them, the people carried all the satanic beliefs and practices that were introduced to them while dwelling on the plains of Shinar. With time, these views were modeled to suit the different civilizations that people the earth. Nevertheless, they all basically stemmed from the religious views started on the plains of Shinar. Thus we read, the Chaldean mysteries can be traced up to the days of Semiramis, who lived only a few centuries after the flood, and who is known to have impressed upon them the image of her own depraved and polluted mind. In Egypt, although there were many gods, the three main deities were, I hate saying these names, but I'm going to say it. It's Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Yes, those are Egyptian deities. And one of them has everything to do with Easter, by the way. These were simply substitute names for Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. In Rome, they were known as Saturn, Venus, and Jupiter, while in Greece, they were known as Kronos, Rhea, and Zeus. In other lands, such as in India and China, they were also known and worshipped under different names. Thus, we see that following the fall of the Tower of Babel, the religion of the Babylonians continued to live on under many different disguises. In many places, these original Babylonish practices were reintroduced and preserved through the historical records, myths, and religious teachings or customs of the people, so much so that even the first day of the week, Sunday, continued to be recognized as the day of the sun. Hence, in Rome, when Emperor Constantine, the one who created Christianity, issued his famous Sunday Law of March 7, 321 AD, he clearly and distinctly referred to Sunday as the venerable day of the sun. Following the scattering of the builders of the Tower of Babel, many people throughout the earth were worshippers of the sun. In Britain, a religious sect called the Druids were greatly feared by the people. They too were known to worship the sun. The Druid priests were also known to offer human sacrifices to their god and performed many supernatural feats. They were known to worship in small woods or groups of trees called groves. In ancient times, the Druids celebrated a festival in the honor of their sun deity, which today we call Halloween. The night of October 31st was a special night for them, but their idea of, that, as well as the use of I don't want to read that part, anyways, was definitely not the very same as it is now. Gruesome and satanic activities were involved in these observances and in ancient times. Yet we now see these things as innocent, even though in the past they were all associated with pagan and spiritualistic rituals. Certainly there is nothing Christian whatsoever about little children dressing up like witches and warlocks. Elohim's command unto the faithful is, there shall not be found among you and any one that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yahuah, and because of these abominations, Yahuah Elohim doth drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with Yahuah Elohim. Deuteronomy 18, verses 10 through 13. Sun worship became popular worldwide, even among the children of Yashrael/Israel. The sun god Baal was worshipped. Such a practice was condemned by, well, you see, that name's also incorrect. It's Yahuah, and drastic consequences were outlined by him to all offenders. Behold, ye trust in lying words that cannot profit. Will ye steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other Elohims, whom you know not, and come and stand before me in the house, which is called by my name, and say, We are delivered to do all these abominations? Is this house, which is called by my name, become a den of robbers in your eyes? Behold, even I have seen it, saith Yahuah. But go ye now unto my place which was in Shiloh, where I set my name at the first, and see what I did to it for the wickedness of my people Yashrael/Israel. And now because ye have done all these works, saith Yahuah, and I spake unto you, rising up early and speaking, but you heard not, and I called you, but you answered not. Therefore will I do unto this house, which is called by my name, wherein you trust, and unto the place which I have gave you and to your fathers, as I have done to Shiloh, and I will cast you out of my sight, as I have cast out all your brethren, even the whole seed of Ephraim. He that sacrificeth unto any Elohim, save unto Yahuah, only he shall be utterly destroyed. In ancient Rome, the god Saturn was worshipped, and along with this idolatry, the winter solstice was highly regarded. A week-long winter festival called Saturnalia was celebrated by them in honor of the reappearance of the sun in the northern hemisphere. The final day of the festival, Brumalia, fell on December 25th. This was regarded as the day of the invincible sun. During these festivals, there was much gaiety, feasting, and even the exchanging of gifts, very similar to the manner in which the pagan holiday on December 25th is celebrated today. Yet all of these customs existed many years even before the birth of the Messiah, and as we can see, they were all in honor of false gods. Surely the activities involved in these ancient Roman festivals give us a good example of what obviously predominated the celebration of Tammuz's birthday anciently. Thus, we see the date, December 25th, was celebrated anciently by the Romans and other pagans who knew nothing about JC. To them, this date had nothing whatsoever to do with the birth of C. December 25th was a day of pagan origin in honor of the sun god. It is also interesting to note that the same Saturn from which Saturnalia derives was another name for Nimrod. So here's a question. What about, well, this guy and that pagan holiday? So the name SC is indispensably connected to the holiday, and especially with the practice of giving gifts on that day. Some believe that SC originated with a man known as Saint Nicholas. He was a bishop in Asia Minor during the 4th century who did many charitable deeds in his time. On the other hand, some are of the opinion that the name SC originated way back in the time of Nimrod. In some ancient drawings depicting this Babylonish ruler, he is shown wearing a long beard, carrying a spotted fawn or deer, and holding a fir tree in his hand. All symbols now employed in one way or another with that holiday and SC today. Nevertheless, regardless of which origin of the name SC one chooses to believe, the concept of SC again on a whole is totally fictitious. To tell children that SC is a man that lives in the North Pole, rides a sled pulled by a reindeer, one of which is called Rudolph, who is known for his red nose, and that he Mr. S, is responsible for bringing all the presents that are received on that holiday is totally untrue and should not be encouraged by true Christian parents. All who desire to follow the example of our beloved Savior, the Messiah himself, will always seek to live and speak only the truth. They will also earnestly seek to uphold the following words in their own lives and in the lives of their children. As it says God, well, in Hebrew it actually is Elohim, but the real name is Yahuah the Creator, is a spirit, and that worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. Amen. John chapter 4, verse 24. It is interesting to note that when the letters of the name Mr. S are rearranged, they spell the word Satan, and that's true. Surely this is not by chance. As to the origin of the holiday tree, the Bible declares, "Hear you the word which Yahuah speaketh unto you, O house of Yashville/Israel. Thus saith Yahuah, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth the tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good." Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1 through 15. Surely none can deny that this decorated tree made mention by Jeremiah the prophet answers to what is known today as the holiday tree. Of course, the trees of modern times are no longer decked only with silver and gold, but instead multicolored electric bulbs, tinsel, and various other objects. What we see today would certainly outdo the decorated trees of Jeremiah's day. Also, instead of trees being fastened down with nails and hammers, people now use many different kinds of sophisticated wooden stands, special pots, and metal holders. Nevertheless, despite these technological changes, the very same custom is still being followed in modern times. Therefore, despite these modifications, Elohim's original position regarding the observance of this apparently innocent practice is still very clear. Thus saith Yahuah, learn not the way of the heathen, which also means other pagan nations, for the customs of the people are vain, of no value. Jeremiah 10, verses 2 through 3. In many ancient civilizations, trees were worshipped as gods. Sometimes people even carved trees into strange-looking images, which they bowed down to and worshipped as their deities. But the question is appropriately asked, to whom then will ye like Elohim? Or what likeness will ye compare unto him? Isaiah chapter 40, verse 18. When these things are really considered, we can better understand why our Father in heaven prohibited his people from associating themselves with any practices that related whatsoever with pagan customs involving the use of trees, including decorating trees, as it is still done today as the holiday tree. Concerning the folly in using trees in this manner, the prophet Isaiah rightly declares, "He that is impoverished, that he hath no oblation, chooseth a tree that will not rot. He seeketh unto him a cunning workman to prepare a graven image, that shall not be moved. To whom then will ye liken me? Or shall I be equal, saith the Holy One?" Isaiah 40, verses 20 and 25. So I want to add something. This is also Deuteronomy chapter 16, verses 21 through 22. Now, this is actually the Sefer version of the Bible, the actual translated with the real Hebrew names. Here we go. You shall not plant an Asherah pole of any trees near unto the altar of Yahuah Eloheka, which you shall make. Neither shall you set up any image which Yahuah Eloheka hates. So anyways, if you see these in churches, this is exactly a good example here. We got many of these trees in churches, and of course, this is definitely the real ideal of idolatry, guys. For the Creator makes it real serious that He is real serious in His word that He hates it when we do that, okay? And truth is, lots of people will argue with this and say, well, it does not matter, it's His birthday. Actually, it does matter, for He never said anything in the Bible to celebrate His birthday anyways. If that were important, He would have actually told us. But no, it wasn't written. In fact, it may have been written, but the question is, if it was, why is it in the Bible? Because one, it's very simple, really. These so-called translators and writers who like change names and decide to add or remove have done a lot of changes to ensure that we follow traditions in the churches. And you take a good look, this is exactly the good process of what we're seeing here from the churches that actually set up Christmas trees. And it's not good, folks, because this is what breaks a commandment against the Creator, creating idolatry against Him. And some people will say, well, He sees your heart. Remember, Proverbs chapter 28, verses 26. Those who trust in their own insight/hearts are foolish, but anyone who walks in wisdom is safe. Anyways, this is another picture. Again, we have another Christmas tree in the middle of the altar around the church. And also, if you see the sign down at the bottom of the screen where it says IHS, that's satanic, by the way. You gotta go look this up. It's actually part of the Jesuit order system, so you gotta watch out for these things. And here's another picture that everyone needs to see. Of course, it's funny how it mentions about gold and silver, from the Bible, and it also has some colors on the tree that looks like gold and silver. Anyways, I'm just trying to point out some of the little stuff and details that a lot of people need to understand, that this is how serious the Father is. And here's a picture I took. So if you take a look between Nimrod and this other guy right here, so Nimrod defied, and now it says Nineveh artifact, and also Nimrod's birthday. Yes, it's on December 25th, and Nimrod and of course the other guy are both holding trees. Isn't that funny? Even though Nimrod has a little deer, and of course, the other guy has reindeer. Interesting, isn't it? And if you also look right here, these are the names of these are other false Elohims, by the way. They're born in December 25th. Yes. Horus, Osiris, Attis, it says Krishna, but anyways, Zoroaster, Mithra, Prometheus, Heracles, Dionysus, Tammuz, Adonis, Hermes. And here's something interesting. So this right here, this is where all the Trinity started. By the way, that Trinity part that we were learning in churches is also part of Babylonian tradition, because there's no 3 in 1. The Holy Spirit is the Father Himself, okay? Because that's why He said, God is Spirit in the Bible, proving that Him and the Father are one. Remember who descended into the Son after baptism? The Father. And that's why He said, this is my dearly beloved Son, who gives me great joy. So yes, guys. So remember, when you say in the name of the Father and the Son, the Holy Spirit, what's the Holy Spirit's name? He has no name. See, we have our Bibles being twisted, folks. And here comes this part. So you got Nimrod, his wife, and Tammuz, okay? And, of course, Nimrod was called the sun god. And then, of course, Tammuz was born December 25th. And, of course, his wife becomes the moon, goddess of ancient Babylon, wife and mother of Nimrod. And the scary part is the entire earth is lying in the power of ancient Babylonian and spell cast by Nimrod and his mother. Yes, so the secret here is, we'll go to that part, who the identity of this person is, that we all didn't know, that's been roaming around the world, guys. So the question, why is Christianity beholden to Babylonian? So Christianity has taken it up itself to promote Babylonian practices through their promotion of the holiday and Easter. That's right. By the way, Easter is connected to that. We'll come into another video sometime about that. So both of which can follow their footprints right back to Babylon. And here's this, the Christmas deception exposed. And of course, they're calling this guy Satan himself, but he is. And if you look to your right, the balls equals the forbidden fruit that's on the Christmas tree because they look like fruit. Then on the right, the torch of Lucifer. That's right, torches. Remember, they were mentioned in that. And then it says pine tree, pine cone. We'll get to the bottom late after this scene. Now, on your left, says the morning star. And by the way, that pagan idol that's in the picture, that's Baal. And it also has many names, by the way. Baal has many names that you all need to understand and look at. We'll go through that in a moment. Then you see with the Baal star is on the top of the tree, represents the morning star. And the serpent, yes, slithers around the tree. Isn't that interesting? The serpent really loves to reference himself in everything. And here's this, back to the pine cone thing called the satanic pine cone. Satanists are eating the pine owl gland of their offerings after they have been sacrificed, and during their rituals, they also drink their adrenalized blood containing DMT that is produced by the pine owl gland. This is not a coincidence right here. You got SC and Saturnus and Thor. They're very resemblance, by the way. And by the way, Thor, there's a funny history to that. He does sometimes come by to houses through chimneys in some, kind of weird mythological story when you read it. And when you go to Saturnus at the same time, he also does similar things. But anyways, these guys have one thing in common. Flying around with reindeer and an object, coming around with something in their hand. This is exactly what people must understand, that this is exactly how they're following with a deity. Since I am running out of time making this video, we will be making a part 2 a little bit further more. But guys, notice how all these roots are in Christianity, and it's real serious. We're going to say a little couple things to explain how other things are also connected. It's not just Christianity, but there are other religions that does the exact same practices based on Babylonian traditions. Every Christian needs to be worried about this, because it's not good. Yes, some people will argue saying the Father sees your heart. Yes, that's true, but only He sees your heart. The question is, do we see our hearts? Are we taking this seriously and choosing to turn away from what's Babylonian roots, or are we going to continue in disobedience? Again, folks, we need to be ready. There's a lot of stuff that a lot of people don't understand how the world is already turned. There's a lot of explanations on how each other religions does same practices too. But anyways, we'll go on to the second video, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment. Also, I'm ready to take criticisms if people don't believe this. I understand, and we'll let the Father give wisdom to you too. Now I'm asking the Father in heaven, Yahuah, to please help us have all wisdom, because we're running out of time, and the end is coming.